It's that time of year when the sun is shining, our energy levels are hopefully rising with the newfound optimism that spring summer brings. I do think, however, this is a really good time to have a little bit of a spring clean of life, shall we say. And I'm not just talking about decluttering, I'm talking mind, body, soul. And this is the time of year I like to reset some areas of my life. So in this video, I'm sharing 7, maybe less obvious areas of your life to reset, if you wish, for spring, summer. Welcome to this new episode of Voice Notes from Samio. And today I'm excited to get into it because I am a spring, summer baby. I just love this time of year. I just feel energized. However, I'm someone who can get easily distracted. I can go with the flow. I can say yes to all the plans. I can want to do all of the things. And before you know it, I'm just in this whirlwind of summer. And don't get me wrong, there are many positives to having fun and going with the flow. But sometimes I have to take a little bit of a step back, a little bit of a pause, shall we say, before moving forward and have a little think about the areas of my life that I want to reset before continuing on with the rest of my spring, summer. Number 1 is digital boundaries. I touched a little bit on this in a previous episode, how to reduce stress and protect your peace. So I won't repeat all of the same points here. But my first thing that comes to mind on this one is actually what you're consuming of other people and seeing what everyone else is doing at this time of year. I know for myself, this is the time where my calendar starts to become a little bit more alive. I'm doing more things. Life gets busier. And I think this is often the case for many people. And so, as I spoke about before, social media can become a little bit of a highlight reel, whether we are trying to make it that or not. And so when we are online consuming other people's content, what they are sharing, their life, whether it's your friend or an influencer you follow, it can be very helpful for you to be mindful that what you're consuming is a highlight reel. Take my March, for example. I got up to so much stuff. Obviously, when I was out and about, I'd share on my stories where I was eating out, events I went to, things I was getting up to, that kind of thing. But I didn't share the week where I was sat on the sofa with a cold, doing next to nothing, mainly because that's boring and who wants to see that? Plus, no one likes when people are moaning that they have a cold. It's like, get over it. And so we have to remember that we're not always necessarily seeing the ins and outs of everybody's day-to-day life. And so setting those digital boundaries can be really important. And you might be someone that's already set them, especially if you're someone at the start of the year that started very intentional, being mindful. This is a great time to reset. I am one of those people. Old habits die hard, as they say, and it can be easy just to slip back into little habits. So resetting those boundaries can be really helpful, putting those time limits back on, and also realizing that when we are seeing everyone else living their quote unquote best life, we're maybe only seeing part of the picture. And I think at this time of year in particular, especially if you live in the UK or somewhere that's not always warm, there can be this intense level of FOMO when you're not making the most of the sun at every single second of the day, which isn't always possible because our sunny days like to be sporadic. You could have the hottest day of the year on a Tuesday when the majority of people would be working. So it's not always feasible to just drop everything and go outside and frolic in the sun as much as we would all love to. So it's important that we don't get caught up on seeing this highlight reel and seeing everybody else having the best time ever and think that we're missing out and that our life isn't good and fun enough. Because believe me, once in a while, everybody's having either those boring days or those bad days or those mundane days, whether the sun is shining or not. And I think in general, there can be this temptation to always be on, whether we're consuming what other people are sharing or even if we're sharing ourselves. But actually, this is a time of the year, if we are able to go out and enjoy ourselves and see friends, that we should be intentional and be more present when we can, because it can really rob us of the moment. Something that I am really mindful of is putting my phone away when I don't need to be on it. This can be a little bit of a push-pull for me because there can be the content creator side of me that's like, oh, capture this moment, but then the human side of me that just wants to take the photographic memory of my eyes and enjoy it. And so I've set boundaries for myself with this. For example, I was in Lisbon the other day and I took quite a few photos. I was there to spend quality time with my husband. And so I wanted to be present in the moment. And I didn't share the whole time I was there. I shared one image on my story. And then actually I forgot about social media the whole time I was there, which was really nice because I got to disconnect and have that quality time spent away with my husband. And I'm still going to share those things. I have some excellent restaurant recommendations from Lisbon, by the way. So if you are interested, they will be on my Instagram soon. But I wanted to make sure that in that moment I was present, and I will share the experience I had at a later date. And I think being mindful of this can be really helpful because the summer is not around for long. I feel like we get more winter days than summer days here in the UK in particular. And if you live anywhere else, it's a little bit colder, shall we say, you probably have a similar experience. So it's important to enjoy it and be present in it as much as we can. So what setting those digital boundaries is looking like for me is spending less time on my phone, which is again something I always like to come back to and be intentional about, and reminding myself to stay as present as possible when I'm with people, having an experience, taking things in. Yes, take the pictures. I am someone who loves digital documentation, but also remembering to take it in with your own eyes and enjoy the experience in real time for what it is. Number 2 is personal boundaries. Now, I don't know about you, but when the sun begins to shine, everybody seems to want to come out to play, including myself. And I have to take a little bit of a step back and have a little bit of a reset, because it's almost like all the boundaries that I put in place at the start of the year start to go out of the window. And I'm going to be real with you. This has happened to me just recently. I looked at my calendar and I started to feel a little bit overwhelmed because I couldn't see a weekend that I had free to myself. So I had to rearrange some things because that for me is not good. The problem I have is I've often identified as an extrovert, and in many areas I would say I am. But over the years, what I've realized is alone time for me to be with myself is just as valuable and just as important for me as is time spent with friends and loved ones. So as someone who can get carried away and want to do all the things, I have to regularly check in with myself and reset my own boundaries and think about what will actually feel good for me in the long run. And even if you don't have loads of people asking to do things with you left, right, and center, you might even just spend the majority of your time with a few people or family members or whoever it is. I think this can be a really good time to reflect and think about who energizes you and who drains you and what knock-on effect that is having on your life. Because often we can go long periods not actually realizing that some relationships aren't aligned, and this can be at such a detriment to so many areas of our life. So having that reset can be important. It doesn't mean you have to cut people out, but it can mean reassessing how you interact with them and how much and when. And also realizing that just because you used to say yes to certain people all the time before doesn't mean you have to say yes to them all the time now. So for me, the way I'm resetting personal boundaries is being intentional with my plans and my time. Just because I'm asked to do something doesn't mean I need to say yes. And also, not every plan needs to be for me. Sometimes we can get in the habit of people pleasing and doing things because we think it will make someone else happy. But sometimes we have to take a step back and think about how this will actually serve us in the long run as well. And something I set in motion actually years ago now, and I stick by it. I'm very mindful that if I have a plan on a Friday evening, I won't be doing something on a Saturday evening because I will need that time to myself to reset and recharge. And so having these boundaries in place for yourself, whatever they look like for you, they might look completely different, are really important to come back to when you need to, especially when discerning which things are for you and which things are not for you. Number 3 is your environment's vibe. You probably knew it was coming at some point on this list, the spring clean. Now, you don't need to do a spring clean if you want to. I'm a fan of a spring clean, to be honest. And often people do say if you continually clean, you won't need to do a big clean at spring. But there's something about having that extra boost of a clean, of a refresh that feels really good around this time of year. For example, just yesterday, I was cleaning the blinds in my house. Bane of my life? Yes. Satisfying to do? Also, yes. And so that's what I mean when I say spring clean. It's maybe the bigger things that you wouldn't usually do. I'm sure I don't need to tell you to do a spring clean. If you want to do one, do one. If you don't, don't. It's one of the most obvious resets to partake in around this time of year. But I think Also being intentional about what is in your space in general. It's easy to say declutter, but it's kind of like, well, declutter what? What is your overall environment doing for you? How does it feel? I think also being mindful when you are getting rid of stuff. Do you actually need to get rid of it? Do you actually want to? Or are you going to actually want this in 6 months when it's winter again? Because that can happen. But as cliche as it often is a good time to reset your space. There's more light coming in, the days are longer, you can see more of the dust. And sometimes we don't realize how much our environment can be really affecting us. I'm a big believer that your environment has a big knock on effect to your mental clarity, which in turn has a big knock on effect to your goals and your life plans and so on and so forth. And so being really mindful of it can be very, very helpful. On a personal level, my husband and I have made it a mission to get all the odd jobs around the house finished that we've been saying for ages that we're going to do and haven't, and just really being intentional and taking the time to do it. It's not often fun, it's sometimes boring. We do a lot of stuff ourselves, so we do a lot of DIY. And so sometimes it means getting up early on a Saturday to just do the job or do the task. But actually, as we've started to do it, it's been feeling really good. Yesterday, like I say, I was having a spring clean and I was on a mission. One of the areas that needed a little bit of a reset for me was my office space. I just needed to clear out my desk. There was just things on there that shouldn't be on my work desk. And already it's given me this new sense of motivation and refreshed inspiration. And I know this can sometimes be a tricky one as well, because yesterday, for example, it was a Saturday when I was doing the spring clean and it was a really sunny day, and the temptation to just go outside and do something, go for brunch, go for cocktails, something other than clean the house was so strong. But I knew that taking that time to do the spring clean would have such a positive knock-on effect on the rest of my week and the following weekends to come that I knew it was worth it to take that time. So sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a sacrifice in the moment, but in the long run, it's going to feel so much better. Number 4 is health and fitness. If you're someone who started the new year with a new fitness plan, or you're just continuing on with your fitness, it's easy to have that motivation in January when there are very little plans, no one's really doing anything, the weather's a bit rubbish. And whilst it can be hard to motivate yourself to go to the gym, if you get there, generally speaking, you don't feel like you're missing out on much else, because in January, what's going on anyway? However, spring comes along, summer comes along, the plans, like I said, might start creeping up. And that fitness journey that you were on in January is going to start to look very different at this time of year. And I also think it should look different. I don't think we need to live our lives on 75 hard or whatever the latest challenge may be in the fitness world. We need to give ourselves some ebb and flow and balance with it. And so having a reset at this time of year is really important, because I talk a lot about the all or nothing mentality. And I think it can be so easy to go all guns blazing in January, be like your healthiest, fittest self, get to spring, go and have some cocktails in the sunshine and think, sod it, I'm done with fitness. It's Aperols and pizza from here on out. And whilst, yes, you should enjoy those things, it's all in balance, all in balance. So for me, this time of year, I am resetting my fitness, not only what I'm doing, but the way I'm doing it. So this is a time of year where I start to run more, because I always joke about this, but I'm a summer runner, okay? I don't really do winter running. I don't like the cold. I don't like the wet. So I tend to just go to the gym during those months if I go at all. I've been very on it this winter, so I have been in the gym. But I actually really enjoy running when the weather's nice. Like today, the sky is blue. I am ready to get on my running gear. It actually excites me. I know it's very different for other people. You might be thinking that is my idea of hell, and that's completely fine. But you might find there's other fitness activities you like to partake in when the sun is shining. It could be as simple as going for long walks. But I think resetting your fitness routine and how you approach it can be very helpful. And you might be thinking, fitness routine, I don't even have one. If you want to create one, this is a perfect time. The easiest time to go at it is when the sun is shining, because I feel like there's so many more activities that you can partake in. Is the challenge of sticking to it harder when you've got all the social plans? Yes. But can you also find added joy in your fitness when the sun is shining? Absolutely. And so I think it's a really good time to reset and look at what type of activities you do. So for me in the winter, I was strictly gym. I'll be partaking in a little bit more running, which might mean my amount of gym sessions go down to counteract that. So I actually have the energy levels to do both. And on top of that, I'm going to be resetting my whole gym routine because I've been doing the same fitness plan now that I created for myself for over 3 months. So it's time to reset it because I will start to get bored. And on top of that, create new fitness goals. I think this depends on your level of fitness and what you're aiming towards. For me personally, as someone who's really into fitness, it's a big part of my life. I find goals can be very helpful, especially when you're doing quite repetitive workouts. Having goals that you're working towards can be a really good way to make it fun and give yourself a little bit more motivation. So for me, I have been getting into calisthenics and I have some calisthenics goals. I did drop a little hint in another episode that one of those goals is to do an L-sit. They are hard. I am not there yet. I will be letting you know when I am there, but training calisthenics is something that makes it really fun for me. So having goals and resetting those goals can be really helpful. And on the flip side of things, whilst this is all good and well, as I've mentioned, the plans creep up, there's more going on. I know I'm take more trips in the summer and it can be easier to fall off my routine. And going back to that thing of the all or nothing mentality, I think this is when it's important to give yourself a little bit of leeway. I spoke about this in the episode where I talked about how to stay on track and my pivot plan. And I will be implementing my own pivot plan as I move into spring, summer, when I know there's more things that could potentially knock me off my routine, but I do want to stay consistent. But consistency is going to look different in the summer than the winter because, again, the activities change, the level you can partake will change, how much you want to partake will change, your diet, all of that may change a lot. And it's important to allow yourself that flexibility as well, because that's what's ultimately going to help you to stay consistent in the long run. But I think generally this time of year is a great time to reset your fitness. Number 5 to reset is money mindset. I think again, when spring, summer comes along, there can be a temptation to buy more for the new season. Not only that, but there's a potential that you're doing more things, you might be traveling more. And so spending can go up. And I think it kind of also goes back to the previous point about the setting boundaries and being mindful of what you're saying yes to and who you're saying yes to. Because sometimes when you're saying yes to plans that other people are asking you to do, sometimes that can be great and you can really want to do them. But sometimes if you don't and you're saying yes to them and you're also spending money on that plan, you have to also think then, what are you potentially saying no to that you would rather spend your money on or even save your money on? And so I think having this money mindset reset is really important because often your winter expenditure can be very different than your summer expenditure, and thinking and acting accordingly can be very, very helpful. A reset helps you align your financial habits with your current goals, not your winter goals, because the two may be very different. So even just thinking when you're spending, does it align with your current goals, whether you're saving for something, whether you're looking to spend money on something else, or whether you have other things booked in that you need to keep money aside for? Just thinking about that can be helpful, and realizing that you don't always need loads of new stuff just because it's a new season. Number 6 to reset is passions and creativity. Much like with fitness, the activities that you can partake in the summer are going to be so much different to winter. If anything, you've got so many more hobbies to explore, things to try, things to do, and maybe even just reconnecting with some of the things that you might have said you wanted to do at the start of the year, and 4 months in, you maybe haven't done as much as you'd like to. For me personally, this is reading. I actually have read quite a bit this year. I think I've read 4 books, which, to say my goal was 5 is really good. And at the start of the year, I was on a roll. I read 3 books in the first 3 weeks, and I thought, this is it. I'm a book girly now. I'm going to be reading nonstop all day, every day. Who needs to work when you can just read books? But in all seriousness, I thought I'd found the thing that I'd be doing most in my spare time. And then it got to Feb and I started two pretty intense books. And I know most people say if you're not enjoying a book, just leave it and move on. The problem with these, however, is I wasn't not enjoying them. I just wasn't absolutely loving them. So I kind of was struggling through a little bit. And to be honest, they're books that I will read. I'm just not drawn to reading them all the time. And so I just fell off from reading up until about 2 weeks ago. And I picked up a book and I started reading again. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing. I've been enjoying this. And then again, when I was away, I started reading another fiction book and straight away I was hooked. So I'm resetting that one for me. I'm resetting that passion of reading because honestly, I have dreams of just sitting outside on a Sunday and reading all day. And I've not done that yet. I mean, one, because the weather's been bad, but two, because I've not had the right book. And three, this is another reminder to keep my boundaries and have some days for myself so I can actually do that. See, it all ties together. So yeah, resetting your passions and creativity, explore what lights you up, the things that you enjoy. Maybe you haven't been doing enough for you this year, and maybe this is a good reminder to go and dabble in some of those things, have fun, have a little bit of a play, and take that time for yourself because this is a really good time to connect to it, especially when it starts to feel like we have more hours in the day because it's lighter for longer and we maybe have that little bit more energy to get up earlier. It can be a really good time to explore and reconnect with some of that. Number 7 to reset is self-talk and inner dialogue. If you have been having more of a slower, cozier start to your year or winter, it may feel a little bit strange as you start to shift gears. Some of it might feel uncomfortable, especially if there are areas that you're working on for yourself. If you have just started on a fitness journey or you're started on your goals now, because I know for a lot of people, their January actually starts in spring, summer, which would make sense. Do it with the equinox. The longer days, the more energy, it makes so much sense. But with that can come the challenge of really shifting gears. And so we have to adjust our self-talk accordingly and also be kind to ourselves because it's normal if it doesn't all come naturally straight away, especially if we have been moving a little bit slower and just easing into the year. And you might even find yourself coming up against roadblocks. There can be a lot of mental barriers that come along when we're trying to shift gears because ultimately our inner self wants to keep ourselves safe. If, for example, you've decided you're going to start on your fitness journey now, and for the first 3 months of the year, you have been in a slower pace, cozy, not doing any fitness whatsoever, it would be normal for your inner dialogue to have a little bit of a panic and be like, what are you doing? They may even try to self-sabotage and keep you quote unquote safe because they're scared of change. And so it's really important to be aware of this inner dialogue at this time and notice when there's maybe a little bit of self-sabotage coming up or maybe some scarcity there of what this change is going to look like in any area of your life. And in general, as we all start to switch gears in this new season, it can be really important to just check in with our inner dialogue because you might be someone that has started off great with mindset and feeling really good about yourself, but it is easy for old habits to creep in, especially if it's something that you're new to. I always like to check in and see where my headspace is with these things. And when I feel myself holding back on certain things that I actually do want to do, that's when I like to have a little check in and think about what my mindset actually is around these things and what my actual self-talk is. So for me, I swear by EFT. Tapping has been life-changing for me. It's been amazing. And something I'm implementing this spring, summer is a daily EFT tapping routine. I had already been doing this regularly, but maybe not every day. And as some new challenges started to arise for me, I thought I'm going to start implementing this as part of my morning routine when I do my journaling, also add in some EFT and do it as a part of my daily morning practice. And so far, the mindset shift has been amazing. And this doesn't need to take long at all. If you're new to it, if you haven't tried tapping at all, and if you are interested, I highly recommend a guy. He's on YouTube actually. I will link him down below because I forget his name every time, even though I always use his videos because he's great if you're new to EFT and you want to follow along with someone. And some of them are as short as 5 minutes, so it's really easy to implement. into your day. All you do is follow along and tap as he taps. But there's plenty of info online on how to do that. And like I say, I will link his videos so you can check them out for yourself. But that for me has been a really good way to help with that more positive inner dialogue. And in general, as you're moving into spring, summer, and you're thinking about your goals for this next season, I think for many of us, especially if you've been working on certain things since the start of the year, it's easy to start to get a little bit sidetracked, especially when we have all of these distractions. Like I say, it's easy to just want to go out and have fun all the time and obviously enjoy your life, live your life. Those things are so important. But when we do want to keep on with the things that we have set in motion, the mindset is going to be even more important, because this is when we can easily self-sabotage. The negative thoughts might creep in. It's easy to be like, what's the point? I'll just sack it off. And so for me personally, something I've been doing is challenging all of my thoughts. And so that's something that's already feeling so helpful and good for me. And I did only have 7, but I'm going to throw in a little bonus one that I've just thought. And I'm like, why is this not on the list? But it's to reset your goals and what you want from life. And again, you might not even have any goals yet, but it's a good time to think about them when you're feeling a little bit more energized, and just general what you want out of life, because this ties back to everything we've spoken about. Knowing what you want and knowing how you want your life to look will affect all the other points mentioned today, because ultimately this will be like the blueprint of how you want to move going forward. Are all these decisions you are making in alignment with that goal or that ideal or thing that you're working towards? And so it's a really good time to reset, because also we can often make goals or have a vision for our life or our year at the start of the year, and they can change as time goes on. And it's okay for those goals and ideas to adapt and change. Sometimes you can think you want something, and then as time goes on, you can start to think this doesn't actually feel good to me or align with what I want from my life. And so it's okay to pivot. You don't have to just stick to a goal because you said it back in January, unless the reason that you're trying to throw it away is just because you're self-sabotaging and you're feeling self-doubt. Then I would say work through it. Then I would say do some EFT and figure out how to move forward through it. But if it's genuinely because you don't feel aligned or drawn to this thing anymore, then change it. You're always allowed to change your mind. You're always allowed to make new decisions and pivot. That is completely okay. And I think this time of year is a perfect time to reset, because you've still got so much of the year to go. And so checking in with yourself, where you are with things, how things are going, does anything need changing, can be a great way to help you navigate and move forward as you go forth and continue to live the kind of life that you feel happy to live. So that's it for today's episode, 7 areas of your life to reset for spring, summer. Let me know if there are any areas of your life that you're looking to reset that maybe are completely different to this list. These are some things that I am resetting. Hopefully they could help to inspire you in some way. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. And if you are listening, please leave a 5-star rating and review, as it's very helpful. And subscribe wherever you're listening and watching as well. And then we can do this again soon. I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting your ear off. I will speak to you next time.